All right. There we go. Just like that, we're live.
Are we live? Are we live?
We are live.
Finally, man. It took forever. It's like every single time we do this, there's always technical difficulties all
Yeah.
across the board.
No, it's a good 30
But
minutes of getting it through.
yeah, so anyways, though, but we're back. It's
We are
been
back.
the second week we've done this since both of us have been back at the crib,
True.
and we are ready to rock and roll with another team analysis for the season. Most importantly, Josh, again, it's a beautiful day. Actually, a beautiful night tonight.
It is.
How are you doing
I'm
on
doing
this
great.
wonderful night?
A nice crisp 80-ish degrees over here, so doing pretty good. How about you, James?
I'm doing good, man. I tried golfing for the first time this morning,
Oh,
and I was sweating my butt off, and it
yeah.
was rough. I think I sunk 6 balls in the water on a course, so definitely not the best outing, but I had a great time. It was good to hang out with my brother. But anyways, I'm excited to talk about football. I've been
Yeah,
waiting
get a
on this
little, a
for a
little
little
Tiger
bit.
Woods over here.
Yeah, not minus the DUIs.
Whoa, why
Uh,
did you say that?
hey, no, no,
I'm
no,
just kidding.
don't.
I'm just
I'm
kidding.
not even trying to joke about this, man. This puts. I don't want to be in the I want to, but I don't want to be in the category of Tiger Woods. I think it's like a
Yep.
yang yang kind of thing. I mean, like, yeah, man, you're giving me a bad rap here. It's like I'm not. I've been accused of a crime I haven't even committed. So,
Not yet. Not yet.
uh, but speaking of crimes, actually, what
Ooh.
did you think of the Rasheed Rice dropping a 30 bomb in prison?
I mean, there's so much. If you're on probation, then like, where do you even start this? If you have an issue that you can handle, like therapy, all that, so there's so many opportunities, especially from the NFL, to really be able to help yourself. But the fact is this: if you're an NFL player, you're already getting random drug tested, and if you're already on probation for a DUI, why even attempt for smoking or anything like that? So the fact that he's now playing, or he's now living the next 30 days in jail is, to me, it's funny to this point.
Oh, you're missing OTAs and you're missing, I think part of minicamp too. And I think that the question is like, where do you go from this? Because as much as I love Rasheed Rice and I think he's a good player on the field, it's like
It's the
when
off
he's
the field
on the
issues.
field and he, quite frankly, has missed a lot of time due to off the field issues. And this is like the lowest low he's had so far this entire season is, spending 30 days in jail. I mean, he's probably going to give out a lot of autographs. He's got yard time for practicing
It's
route
it's
running.
it's the
Um,
longest yard all over again. Where's Paul
yeah,
Crew
I
when we need him?
give me my Adam Sandler quarterback and we're all
I
set.
think I
It's going to
think
be a great
wasn't
day.
Nelly the running back the longest yard, the newest one.
Yeah, Stone Cold Steve Austin was like the racist cop linebacker or something.
Bill Romanowski was in it.
Yeah, he
Michael
was, that's
Irvin.
right, yeah. Yes, he was too.
That's so
Man,
funny.
that was a great movie.
I mean,
But,
he's gonna be there with Nolan Smith.
yeah, that's right too.
You know,
Classic Georgia
it's about to say
shenanigans.
a NFL player can graduate from Georgia, but he can't. Georgia can't graduate from the NFL player.
Can't escape the law, man. They got
Can't
those
escape.
Georgia Bulldogs on lockdown, especially in a year where he's supposed to have that breakout year of his.
Hmm.
Yikes. But anyways, getting a little off track with some of the stuff. There's been like sprinkles of news. I think Matthew Stafford just signed a
He
1-year
just signed
extension.
for
Rodgers,
55 million.
yeah. This is Rodgers last year. God bless his soul. He's going to break my heart, but he didn't beat the Packers, so I'm happy about that. And breaking news on the goal line, guys, we got a new division to talk about, and that division is my
Where'd
confidant's
you go?
favorite division in the entire league, the AFC South.
Yeah, with a little love-hate relationship over here.
Yeah, little love hate, little love hate. It's like you give her flowers, she slaps you in the face, but she says she loves you. And then she burns the flowers, but then she said, it's kind of like that kind of like
Yeah,
mixed relationship
just
kind of
like so
thing.
funny. But yeah,
But
so real quick for the AFC South, that's the Jaguars, Titans, Colts, Texans. For this week, I'll be taking over the Jaguars and the Colts, kind of just talking over their offseason, both signings and draft, kind of giving them like my ideas. It's not necessarily just grades, but more just analyze some moves, things they could have done. And then James will do the opposite, do the Texans and the Titans. And at the end, we'll come together, kind of decide what teams out of those divisions made our favorite moves, most improved, least improved, and winners of the division, I think.
that sounds good to me, man. I think, we're going on going on the classical route with this.
Mhm.
So, without notice, Josh, I mean, I always say ladies first, but you're not a lady. So,
Like,
let's get this started up in here with your first one. Take it away.
yeah, I mean, I think I don't know how it's not right for me to start with my team, and that is with the Jacksonville Jaguars. You know, obviously, the Jaguars are coming in this year with not a lot of money. We were, at one point, the, team with the most dead money. Most of that was contracts like Tyson Campbell and not Greg, Gabe Davis as well. I think the two of them, they had like 37 million in dead cap, as long with big contract extensions of Trevor Lawrence and Josh Allen, both coming into aspect this season. But they really didn't do a whole lot, which I'm okay with. I think the biggest news, they lost two key players. Devin Lloyd went to the Panthers and Travis Etienne to the Saints.
Oh, and
We've
Greg Newsome.
Yeah, and we're not talking about Greg Newsome. At this point in time, we've talked both about the Devin Lloyd signing and Travis Etienne signing. Both of them were great players. Just contractually, they didn't fit with the timeline of the Jaguars right now. Jaguars have two replacements in Brayshaw Tuden and Ventrell Miller to come in and take those spots. But they were able to do a few things. We were able to extend Trayvon Walker for 4 years, and we were able to get him under that 30 million, which is a fantastic contract. I think our other big like extension slash resign is Tarek Brown. Got him for 3 more years. Montague Brown ended up being our most consistent corner, as well as one of the best zone corners in this entire league. If you look at statistics, PFF, things like that, he was a guy that didn't start week one. This is a guy that's a former 6th round pick out of Arkansas 4 years ago at this point, and he really didn't play much. And then this year he was shoved into
Yeah.
that rotation we had some injuries, had a few trades, Tyson Campbell, and he came in and he absolutely dominated in this Campanelli defense. So I'm so excited we're able to get him back. Plus, he's a physical player. I mean, I can't tell you how many
Yeah.
times that hit against Pat Bryant with the Broncos just replays my mind. So he's an incredible,
Mhm.
incredible player. But if we re-sign him, other than that, we were able to re-sign a few other kind of smaller pieces. Like Dennis Gardeck was able to come back. He played a little bit of that, like kind of, I always like this, like the Bruce Irvin role, where he played standard linebacker and then rushed a few times. It was a good piece, especially special teams. Other than that, there was this draft. Obviously, no 1st round pick, and the Jaguars made some moves, nothing crazy noteworthy. Their first pick, Nate Borger, tight end. After that, made Albert Regas, Emmanuel Pregnon, Jalen Husky, and a few others. There's nothing super notable about this draft. I will say each player will get playing time. Our biggest issue last year was tight end depth. At one point, we were going into games with two healthy tight ends, and one of them being Justin Herbert's little brother. So it's not exactly like
Oh,
tight end depth was great. So we were able to get Nate Borcher, who's a great blocking tight end, can also be used in that 12 and 13 personnel. After that, Albert Regas is another guy that can come in, be that secondary, big nose tackle, run stuffing defensive end, or D tackle, my apologies. Emmanuel Pregnon is someone that can fight for one of the guard spots, probably won't start day one. Jalen Husky, same thing, can kind of rotate in that back end. But my big thing here, big point of emphasis is whenever James Gladstone and Liam Cohen came into the Jaguars, their big thing that they wanted to do was have a higher ceiling and higher floor to this team. If you look at last year's draft, so not this one that just happened, but the year before, Travis Hunter, Caleb Bransall, Wyatt Millum, Brayshaw Tune are all players that have that very high potential that don't necessarily have a huge floor. This draft is the exact opposite. Borger, Regas, Pregnon are all guys that have extremely high floors, but maybe not as high as the ceiling. So I think it's super interesting that the draft philosophies of the last two were so completely different.
yeah.
I
Well,
know I kind of
thank you, Josh.
went on a little rant there, but
That was awesome, man. That was really good. So I have things that
yep.
I listen, I know you're a Jags fan. So I think this offseason was it's a difficult offseason. Whenever you don't
Hmm.
have the cap space, you have to let players walk. Obviously I'm disappointed that both those guys walked. I think they had massive contributions, especially in a contract year. I was surprised a little more with Devin Lloyd, especially for the contract value that he went for.
Yep.
But I do like some of the signings. I like Monteric Brown coming back.
Chris Rodriguez.
It's never. I'll say this: it's never an easy offseason with a tough cap situation and losing two really key captains of both sides of the ball,
Mhm.
and not and really, you're obviously relying on replacements who have shown flashes, but you're not really sure if their value is comparable to where there is. Because I'll be honest with you, it probably isn't gonna be that right away. It's probably gonna take a lot of time.
Yeah.
And then the draft too, at least even from I don't even have to really say it from everyone
Mhm.
else's perspective, is that it's very interesting draft to say the least, especially from all across the board.
I'll even throw this at you. I'm a huge Shags fan. Even when I'll be working there during the summer, I look at every little signing, everything that they do. I'm still giving it a C minus to even D plus draft.
Yeah, I think there's upside. I think obviously with every draft there's upside. There definitely was some questions. I really like the
Mhm.
Pregnon pick. I mean, we had him mocked a couple times in the first round, if
In the
not
end of
early
first round,
second.
yeah.
Uh, Some of the I think from what I gathered, it's interesting, 25-year-old blocking tight end with the second round pick, a guy who
Mhm.
probably could have gone in, probably third or fourth round. So, I mean, I think the way I really thought about it is that I was like, you're taking these guys really early to their draft value. And I think I saw a couple things where it was like, especially some of those later half picks, they had guys that were ranked as guys who were 200th, 600th prospects going in the, third or fourth round. So I'm a little questioned
Yeah.
because it definitely seems like it was the draft against all other drafts,
Mhm.
right? You had all these other drafts where, some of it is positional value. There's usually a mix of positional value and, what you need and best player available. This kinda, like, disregarded a
Yeah,
lot of that stuff,
this draft was
and
100% you know who you like, and you're going after them no matter what
yes.
draft position you're at.
It was I think the way people have said it, and I agree with it, it was a cocky draft. It's, "We think we know the guys who are going to play the best football. Everyone else out there is saying this, but we're saying this." And that's super risky because obviously everyone else is gonna be like, "Hey, you're ridiculous for drafting these guys. We didn't have this guy on our board at all. We had this guy going in the 4th round. You drafted him in the 2nd." And that was all across the board except for the Pregnon pick, which I think is like the one saving grace that a lot of people, including myself, had for this draft. So I think the question is, without a first round pick, getting this draft capital and not really going for necessary like replacements for the guys that you lost, like Devin Lloyd and Travis
Yep.
Etienne, which is obviously big question marks. Am I the biggest fan of this offseason? No. Do I think, from your perspective, do I see upside in what they're
Mhm.
planning? Yes, because obviously this is more of a 12 personnel league. Blocking tight ends, you've seen the money they've been going for drafting a guy like that.
We've seen the last few years, Charlie Kolar, is a huge example of this. Josh Oliver for the Vikings, huge example.
Yeah.
Jackson Hawes last year for the Bills being like that fifth round rookies. Now, just all these examples of these big blocking tight ends and the example of the NFL moving to more of that 12, 13 personnel it's rare. It's such a huge change from the last few years. It's really fun to watch.
Yeah, I think yes, I do agree with that. I just think I just didn't really like the draft. I think it
Mhm.
was very I think it's either going to be one of those drafts where, hey, James Gladstone slaps everyone else in the face and says, "You know what? Screw you. I'm the genius. I'm the one drafting right in this scenario." But I think that the cards are leaning towards kind of, "Hey, you took these guys way too," because it's part of it is who you like, but it's also consistent with the boards and the best player available. There's so many different perspectives. I think this was a little one-sided, and I think in the condition the Jags are in,
Mhm.
which is a very good condition. I mean, you think about last year, it was fantastic towards the end of the year. Trevor Lawrence is finally hitting his stride, hit the back half of the season, looked amazing. He was in his prime. You let probably top 15 running back walk and a second all-pro linebacker, and you're saying, "Hey, listen, we're gonna take these 2 4th-round guys. They're gonna be our replacements." And then, okay, well, maybe you addressed, some get some guys who you can say will immediately compete. And I think that's right, but I also just think that the upside with those guys is a lot lower and, very confusing. I
It's
think for the
yeah,
situ
and
Yeah, yes.
I'll throw this at you. I think a lot of what the coaching staff has seen is they are so banking on the development of the end of last year. And I think what they're looking at most is to not only build on that momentum, build on like the development of somebody like Parker Washington, Monteric Brown, people like that, but then also bringing the talent from the previous year's draft, and hopefully Travis Hunter can play a full season. Hoping Caleb Ransall can actually come in and really be able to do something in that secondary. That's why you let someone like Andrew Wingard walk, and then as well as I think a big part of letting Devin Lloyd walk is the emergence of Antonio Johnson from last year. A guy that was coming in and subbing Devin Lloyd out on third down packages. Like, I think because of the grouping in that secondary, I do think Antonio Johnson can be working a lot more in the box as well as the linebacker. So I think parts of that, as well as the combination of Chris Rodriguez, like Bracial Tudin, and Quan Allen to come in and be that 3 running back duo, and then adding tight ends, you have 4 starting wide receivers right now. Parker Washington, Brian Thomas,
Yeah.
Travis Hunter, and I'm blanking, but besides that, they're just really hoping on the back end talent from last year to come in and add some of the younger depth that they have now and really able to not just have a 1-year wonder.
Yeah, I think yes, yeah, I think from that perspective, but I also I kind of think it the way you're thinking of, but
Mm-hmm.
in the opposite way is like I kind of thought this offseason was especially like
What can we do to make
how
sure it's not a 1-year wonder?
I think it was yeah, I kind of
Mm-hmm.
like look at that and like I think it's a lot of banking. It's a big risk.
Huge
I think it's a
risk.
very risky thing. You're banking on a lot of young talent in key positions when you had those proven players. And you're saying, listen, let's be consistent, past that 1-year prime. Like I don't know if the direction of this offseason is
Mm-hmm.
compatible with that, but I do understand what you're saying, and I like your perspective. I just think, from my point of view, it was one of those off seasons where, listen, I get it. You let these guys walk because you have that cap space. And then it's like, okay, are you going to try and at least put some depth and replace these guys in the off season and in the draft? And, I get that you're addressing the tight end room, but again, the value and overall it's just confusing. And I
Yep.
really am interested in I would be interested in being in that like war room and saying,
Mm-hmm.
"Hey, what's going on? What's that plan?" Because I see it kind of, but at the same time I'm like, is this really gonna work? Is so I think
Yeah.
it's a bold move from
I think.
Gladstone. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
bold in the perspective that, hey, listen, we're going to go against the grain, against the consensus. We're doing it our way and no one else's. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it either Gladstone slapping everyone in the face and saying,
Mm-hmm.
screw you, I'm doing this right, or yeah, everyone's saying you don't do it because that's an absurd thing, and usually the consensus at those times is the latter, but, things could work out. So,
I
am I the biggest fan? No,
no.
but I understand your perspective and takes on it.
No, and I think bottom line, regardless of everything we said, it's a selfish offseason.
Yes.
We think we're better. We think we have answers for everything you're looking for. We're going to go and get our guys, regardless of everything else that people think, and we're going to come out there and we're going to make sure and show you that's not a 2017 Jags team, 2017,
Yes.
2018. We're building a dynasty rather than just a 1-year playoff run.
Yes. And I think a lot of that also, yeah, like you said, banks on the year before draft class,
Mm.
especially with Travis Hunter, considering, the cost it came to acquire him. So I really hope he does break out into that form because we
No,
did
for
see
sure.
that a little bit before he was hurt. But yeah, so that
Hey,
was but
no,
yes, I do agree with that. But
and
anyways,
also, the last
or
thing, it's also a huge thing when you have your quarterback on contract for.
yes.
That was his
Mhm.
first year of his 5-year contract. So that is your player, no matter if you think he's going to be the starter long term or not. He is your player. It's very rare we see situations like we saw with Tua this past year. I mean, putting
Mhm.
up 50 million in dead caps, so unheard of. But no, Trevor
Yes.
Lawrence is your quarterback regardless of if you think he can ascend to what he was in the year or if he is that first round bust.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think he's heading in the right direction too. So
I think so too. All right. So with that, James, where you want to go? You want to go
let's do this.
Texans?
Ready? Ready?
Uh,
We are going to go the
um,
Houston Texans, baby. Let's
all right.
do this. Man,
Talk about the
they have
Texans.
had a really interesting and honestly, I like the offseason. I like what they did. They cut Jimmy Ward, they cut a couple guys, but really it was a matter of one adding to the
Hmm.
trenches, especially adding that offensive line. You have a great, unbelievable defense. And they did a good job of that. Extending Ed Ingram to a 3-year, 37.5 million extension, really good for his year in the season, is probably your left or right guard for the future. I was impressed with the way he played. But then you go out and get two really solid veteran offensive linemen in
Hmm.
Wyatt Teller and Braden Smith. Smith is your tackle sliding guard kind of hybrid guy. He can move different places, but he is definitely your right tackle for the future. And then Wyatt Teller, again, had injury issues, but overall really consistent veteran offensive guard. And I think that's really important when you have young pieces on that offensive line, especially what we're going to talk about with the draft, getting some veteran guys you can replace, because Houston right now believes that they have the best defense in the league. CJ Stroud is not under contract for very long, and that's a whole other conversation with him.
Yeah, I mean, they went
So
ahead and
why
picked
not
up his 5th year.
yeah, why not maximize your offensive line, give him protection, because in the past that has been really rough for him. Couple small signings, re-signed linebacker EJ Speed, brought in Logan Hall, defensive tackle. I like that. Adding defensive tackle depth could be a good one-on-one pass rush guy. And then probably their biggest signing outside that is
Mhm.
Reed Blankenship to replace Jimmy Ward.
Yeah.
A good contract, 3 years, 24.5 million. Rock solid safety. Is he great? No. Is he good? Yes. But he's a good replacement for Jimmy Ward. Will be able to hold down the fort in that defense and
It
maximize their secondary's capabilities. Now with the draft. So overall, let me say it. I like
mhm.
the offseason. You plugged in holes. You weren't afraid to spend some money. You're in that contract situation with CJ Stroud. Maximize his opportunity to be great by really addressing that offensive line. And then in defense, add some depth, plug in the main hole with the safety. And other than that, good offseason, right? I don't see,
Yeah.
I'll necessarily say I don't see a lot of holes when it comes to this team. We go into the draft and they continue to fill in gaps.
Mm.
First round pick Keelan Rutledge from Georgia Tech, a guy who really rose up on prospect boards. Really definition of the Texans, super physical mauler, switch between guard and center. They traded up to get him. I like it, right? And
It's your starting center.
you got a starting center, right?
Mhm.
That is a good thing to have in the back half of the first round. And he also can play tackle just in case other guys get hurt. Second round pick, probably another pick I really liked. Kate McDonald, man.
Incredible value.
I mean, it's like adding butter to your lobster. It is, listen, you have probably the best pass rushing duo in the entire league. You have some good defensive linemen. Why not get the best run stuffer in the entire
Mhm.
draft to plug up the middle gaps on that defensive line? I mean, my God, man, this defense is going to be really hard to run through. The one I had questions about was their second round pick, Marlon Klein, tight end out of Michigan. If that seemed like a pick to me, it seemed like the Luke Schoonmaker pick that Dallas made a while back. If you remember who that
Yep.
is, really just not really sure why they drafted him, especially that high in that position. I could see why they would want to draft a tight end guy behind Dalton Schultz. I know Dalton Schultz is getting older, but I like the position. Do not like the player. The rest of them aren't necessarily not really noteworthy. I like that they picked up Kamari Ramsey, safety in the 5th round. He's a guy I think could start in the future, and you got some offensive linemen, linebacker depth in the back. You also extended Aziz Al-Shaair, who's been a really good linebacker and public enemy number one of the
Yeah.
Jacksonville Jaguars.
Can't stand them.
Can't stand him. What do I think of this offseason? I like it. I
And
think
Will Anderson, able to re-sign him for upwards of 50 million a
yes,
year.
making him the highest paid pass rusher in the entire league. That is great. 3 years, 150 million.
Oh my
Again, well
gosh.
deserved. Well
Well
deserved.
deserved. Yes.
Well deserved. You're locking him up for the future. That is super important. I like it. I like what they did.
Mhm.
Listen, this team is in that window, right? Your quarterback's not in that contract year. You're maximizing. Oh, and forgot to mention the David Montgomery trade, but
Yep.
that was a long time ago. So Really, and they attacked him really hard. Safety. You got
Mhm.
2 guys I think could become, Reed Blankenship, Kamari Ramsey. Interior defensive line, you got the best run stuff from the entire class and good defensive line to go home. Offensive line, you have 3 neuters on your offensive line, and it's not bad. None of these guys I don't think are gonna be really bad. A couple of veterans,
Fair.
you re-signed Ed Ingram, you have Ariante Ursary at your left tackle,
We
Rutledge at
re-signed Trent
center,
Brown as well.
Yeah, and bringing back tackle depth. This is the thing with the Texans this season. Listen, they have all the capabilities to win this division and be great. They have
Mhm.
arguably, if not the best defense in the entire league. You have a really interesting offensive skill group. I'm interested to see how David Montgomery does as that lead back, something he hasn't done in a very long time. Uh, and receiving core, it's the same thing. Nico Collins, I think, is fantastic when he's on the field, but you need one of those other guys to step up. Jaden Higgins, Jalen Knoll, one of those guys has to really step up and become your prime wide receiver too. You invested a lot of capital in that receiving core, and then Dalton Schultz and Marlon Klein too are going to have to make big impacts.
Mhm.
I'm not necessarily concerned about their defense. It's more the offense. It's which skill positions are going to set up, and the most important question of it all: what the hell is going on with CJ Stroud? He has not looked as good since his rookie year, which is obviously a major, major red flag. He's coming into his contract here. You're basically banking everything you have on this guy. Your team, I think, outside of the quarterback is fantastic. It's
Mhm.
one of the better rosters in the AFC. I really contribute it very closely to the Denver Broncos because I look at this roster, I don't see that many holes in it. I don't see a lot of positions where I say, oh, that thing is terrible. Like, you need to replace that. Other than the quarterback and CJ Stroud, it's like, what? That's the main question. Is CJ Stroud going to be that guy? Is he going to make that extra jump? It's kind of like Bryce Young. Is he going to make that extra jump to where every season I watch a game of his, oh, he looks really good in this game, and then, oh, wow, this guy's really bad. What is going on with him? I think if
Yeah,
he
because
makes that
what
jump,
it was what, 7 turnovers in the playoff game? Now,
yes,
regardless of the weather, I wanna jump right in. This team is banking on CJ Stroud strictly. This is the one of the best defenses we've seen in a long time. You have the best pass rushing duo. You have such an incredible young secondary. You bring in a veteran like Reed Blankenship, which he had a little bit of down year, but that allows somebody like Jalen Petrie to stay in the box where
yes,
where he's exceptional at. You have one of the best corners. You have a really good a few other young pieces, Caden Bullock, Kamari Lassiter, some great pieces. Aziz Ashir was a Pro Bowler last year, and this defensive line interior, Tommy Togai was pretty good. And then you bring in Caden McDonald. There's nothing on this team that's screaming red flags other than CJ Stroud.
yes.
Yes, the receiver core, other than Nico Collins, is not the best. Nico Collins also had a down year. They lost Christian Kirk, but you brought in 2 second and a third round rookies last year in Jalen Knoll and Jaden Higgins. So you're really banking on this. You put everything you can into CJ Stroud, and I don't know if he's the answer. He's been not even like a steady decline. It's been an extreme decline since his rookie year.
Yes, I think it's again, you talked about it. When is he going to make that jump since the rookie year? He can be a good quarterback, but
It's
it's been
concerning,
really tough. And I think
100%.
that they have all the pieces and capabilities to be a great team, but there's always something, and for them, it's like the worst thing that can be something, which is the quarterback position. But that's what I got
Yeah.
so far. So, what about you?
Quarterback issues, I'm going to completely put that right back to the Colts. Man, where do I start? This team was breaking records on offense. They didn't punt in like 4 weeks to start off the regular season last year. Jonathan
Hmm.
Taylor was MVP conversations. Daniel Jones, comeback player of the conversation. The sky was the limit. Offense kind of slowed a little bit. Daniel Jones obviously had that he kind of dealt with injuries off and on, and then had an Achilles tear. And then with that, their offense just wasn't really able to stay the same. Riley Leonard came in, Philip Rivers unretired for a few weeks. So kind of a lot of stuff. But their free agency, they did some stuff. Their biggest noteworthy move is they did re-sign Alec Pierce. Man, 4 years, $115 million for
Not
a
a
guy
fan.
that's
Not a fan.
never truly been a wide receiver one. This was like a one trick pony for the beginning of his career, and then this past year was able to ascend. But can he be that consistent wide receiver one on all three levels, not just those deep balls? Is my biggest concern with him. With
Mhm.
that being said, they also had to release Michael Pittman, who's been your long-term wide receiver one for the last 4 years. So making a lot of moves in the wide receiver room. And then you bank on Daniel Jones coming off an Achilles tear, coming off a career that's been extremely, well, I don't want to say extremely high, but very low. You bank him with a 2-year, 88 million to him to play like he was after this Achilles injury. I'm not a huge fan of this. I know they originally tried to tag him, and then I think I don't know who it was, but somebody offered him, and then they had to match that deal. But I'm not a fan of you re-signing your quarterback who had 12 games where he played really well, and that's it. Like,
Yeah.
this is so much money, and there's a chance he doesn't even come back until halfway through next year. So now you're writing on, is Riley Leonard going to be able to keep you afloat until then? Because you don't have a first round pick, because you traded for Sauce Gardner last year. So a lot of those things there. Other than that, they did a few other moves. 3 years, 17 million from Michael Clemens, the defensive end from the Jets, rotational guy. This is kind of your Quiddy pay replacement. Arden Key, another free agent, 2 years, 16 million. Arden Key just wants to stay in the AFC South, apparently, with the Jaguars, Titans, Colts. He's okay. Another guy, just rotational pass rush. That's kind of all they made in free agency. A few moves. Again, they didn't have a whole lot of money, and they wanted to make sure to re-sign some of their top guys. Now the draft. Obviously, no first round pick. That was Sauce Gardner. But with their limited resources, they made some really good picks. CJ Allen. Well, also, I know they traded away. They had a trade with the Packers, of course, Zaire Franklin. So they had a key missing their linebacker. So they took CJ Allen with their second round pick. I thought CJ Allen was going to go back, probably top 20, top 25.
Yeah, I
Obviously,
thought he was like a late first, early second kinda guy.
that prototypical size Georgia linebacker. So I thought it was fantastic value. And then they double down and they go and get AJ Halsey, safety, almost safety slash linebacker from LSU. This is, I think, an incredible pick, especially to complement Cam Bynum, who they have already. Cam Bynum is more of that coverage specialist, interception. AJ Halsey is on line of scrimmage, big, physical, 6'2", almost 230, safety, linebacker, rangy. Love that pick. Just adds more players to this already pretty good defense. Other than that, they made some other like smaller moves. Caden Curry, I really like, edge rusher from Ohio State. This is a guy that had double-digit sacks last year as Ohio State's primary edge rusher. He's a little bit, height-wise, he's a little bit smaller, but he's thick, about 270 pounds, about 6 foot, and can play inside and outside. Dion Burks is a wide receiver that really fell down in the draft this past year. Really
Mhm.
fast,
Yeah.
athletic player from Oklahoma. Really like that pick. But honestly, they didn't make too many moves. Again, the biggest things, they also had to release longtime corner Kenny Moore, which was happy, but also kind of sad because he's been there for so long as an undrafted free agent.
Yep.
Again, biggest things is you're banking on what you have. You're banking on Daniel Jones being able to come back from injury and be able to play like he was. You're banking on Alec Pierce to take that next step and hopefully get more than 50 catches in a year. You're banking on Jonathan Taylor to come in and be MVP level, even though he had, 350 carries last year. You're
Yep.
banking on so much for this Colts team. You're banking that Sauce Gardner's going to be able to play as he was, a few years ago with the Jets. You're banking on so much stuff, and I don't see this happening in such a competitive division as the AFC South.
Agreed. You're banking basically on what happened in the first 8 games of last season, and you're saying, "Hey,
Mhm.
let's run it back," with I would say, a little bit more of a depleted roster. I don't like a lot of what they did. I like the draft, like you said. I think the
Yep.
value of CJ Allen for that line, because we talked about the start, man. Linebacking core had no one,
Mm.
right? You bring in CJ Allen, I think that's a great pick. Same thing with AJ Halsey. You lose Nick Cross, you get a replacement for him, guy that could play alongside Cameron Bynum. Really, again, I think like some teams, it's just what happened last season. They're like, I think what the Colts are trying to do is they're saying, hey, we had this little bit of success last year. We're going to try to shove that into this year and have the
Put
exact same
yeah,
thing.
put all of our
And
chips on the table.
and
Show
we
all of
have,
our
but
cards.
it's different, right? This season is not the same as last season. Some teams got better, some
Mhm.
teams got worse. Daniel Jones, right, coming off of an Achilles injury, you lose some of your key veterans. You have to release Kenny Moore. You're
You
getting
have to
guys off
trade Michael
injury.
Pittman.
And you
Yeah,
had to trade
exactly.
Michael Pittman. So There are a lot of questions, and I think what really and I don't see it happening. I don't see it, and like you said, it's such a competitive vision. It's like a guy at a bar 20 years later wearing his local high school football state championship ring. It's like you're trying to relive the glory days and you're forcing it in everyone's face, and it's like,
Mhm.
"No, I don't think this is gonna happen." I think that Sauce Gardner trade, when I look at it now,
It was desperation.
still is just not good. It is biting. It is too early, man. It was
Mhm.
too early in it. It was I'm trying to think of a good analogy for it, but I can't really think of a good analogy for it.
For example,
But
it's like the Seahawks a few years ago trading for Jamal Adams. Like, we all knew he probably wasn't gonna fit in the system, but it was a situation where they were so desperate for talent because they thought they had a window. At the time, it was Russell Wilson's last few years in Seattle, and they thought they had a window. This year, you bring in and you have so much success in your offensive system with Daniel Jones, Jonathan Taylor, and so you're like, "Let's capitalize. We have to capitalize." And then once you make the massive trade where you take in so many picks, then it's when the issues start. Daniel Jones, his play declines and then eventually leads to an ACL or Achilles injury. Jonathan Taylor just built up so much carries on this past year, where how is he really going to be able to come back fully
yep,
healthy? Like, those carries don't just go away the next year. Those add up. And as a guy that
yeah.
ran and did so much in Wisconsin, I mean, I don't know how he's still standing right now.
God bless him, man. He's an unbelievable player. But yeah, I have my concerns. I have concerns. I like Shane Steichen. I don't like the construction of this roster.
Yep.
I think, yeah, like you said, and especially on the defensive side, I know they got CJ Allen, they have Bryce Ball. I don't even know how to say his last name. They drafted a guy from Oregon, but hey, that second round linebacker is your like only linebacker with a fourth round guy and Akeem Davis Gaitner. That's
Yeah.
it. Those are the guys you're banking on. You're banking on JT Tumiloau from
Yep.
last year, who was a second round pick, who I don't even think recorded a stat this year. He
Oh, he
never
was a
played.
healthy scratch a bunch of the games.
He was a healthy scratch, yes.
And then the guys who you did go and grab, Michael Clemens, Arden Key, they're not the top end players. Those are not guys that are
They're
going to be able
rotable
to.
guys. They're not guys
Exactly.
you can expect to be starting caliber players. I think that the Colts are trying to relive the 8 games of glory days, and I like some of the guys. I think they've had good abilities. I like their signings last year of Cameron Bynum and Charvarius Ward. I think this offseason was not a great offseason for them, but a lot of it isn't the guys they brought in. It's the internal things that they've done with contract extensions, the expectations of this season, and the reality of it, I think, are going to be 2 entirely different things, and I'm not very confident with what they have done.
Hey, we're very passionate about the AFC South around here.
Yes, that is right. Are
Especially, there's also so many comparisons of all these teams kind of banking so much off of last season with like the Jaguars and the Colts. There's also so many quarterback issues in this division, Texans, Colts. And then there's a team that's left down there, the Titans, who can only go up from where they're at. So, James, why don't we
yes.
kind of talk through that?
All right, let's do it, baby. Another one, and that is the Tennessee Titans.
Hmm.
And this has got to be one of my most favorite off seasons in the league. I really like what they did, and I actually predicted a lot of it. I was really happy when I did that. Yeah, we're going to start with their actual free agency signings. Couple of big ones right off the bat. They had money to spend. Well, first of all, let's go back to hiring of Robert Saleh and the additions of Brian Dable. I like this a lot.
Fantastic.
I really like Brian Dable. I really like Robert Saleh as a head coach.
Hmm.
I think he brings a lot of intensity. He's been a fantastic defense coordinator. Even with the Jets, it wasn't even him. It was really bad roster construction, in my opinion,
Yeah.
that really messed him up.
I
Um,
mean, you
and
bank
then
your entire season on Aaron Rodgers, and then the second play of the season, he snaps his Achilles.
yes. Oh, yeah, I mean, 100%. And then Brian Dable, listen, man, he might not be a horrible head coach, but he's a great offensive mind, works
Hmm.
really well with young quarterbacks, and knows how to run an offense. I think that was 2 big winners from there. We talk about their offseason, right? They have a lot of holes to fill. Let's start by their 2 biggest signings. Wandale Robinson, 4 years, $78 million deal. Unlike the Alec Pierce deal, this is a contract I can get behind. He fits that slot receiver role perfectly in that Tennessee Titans offense. You know how much Brian Dable loved Wandale and being able to utilize him in great ways. He's a safety blanket. He's a safety blanket for Cam Ward. He's a guy that can consistently get 100 catches, maybe not have crazy amount of yards each play, but he's a safety blanket you can throw the ball to when Cam Ward's uncomfortable in the pocket. I think he's just a very consistent player who has the chance of going deep and is your perfect slot receiver. John Franklin Myers, really like this
Yeah.
signing. Kind of a hybrid, really broke out with Denver as that hybrid defensive
Mhm.
tackle, defensive end combination. If there's someone who can maximize defensive lineman power, it is Robert Saleh.
Robert
My
Saleh.
God, I think John Franklin Myers and Jeffrey Simmons, they're going to have the ability. John Franklin Myers allows the ability to have different stunts, being able to have movement across that defensive line. Is that perfect replacement for Devondre Sweat?
Mhm.
Which, speaking of acquiring Jermaine Johnson, this one's a little risky to me. I like Devondre Sweat to the Jets. I like him as a player. I think he does his job really well. Doesn't necessarily fit that solid system. I think that Jermaine Johnson is a very risky guy. He's coming into a contract year. He's been dealt with a ton of injuries. He
Ton
hasn't
of
been fully healthy
injuries.
really since his rookie season. But hey, you're getting a replacement for Devondre Sweat. You're kind of swapping guys. You're getting an extra pass rusher on the outside, and John
Mhm.
Franklin Myers, although expensive, 3 years, 63 million, adds that versatility and explosiveness to that pass rush on the interior.
Yeah,
And actually get a
and to
oh,
throw in real
sorry.
fast, I wouldn't be surprised if he's used kinda like how Chris Jones is used for the Chiefs. He's able to
Yes,
be
yeah,
rushed inside and out, not just because of his size, but also because of that speed, versatility, his inside pass rushing moves, outside pass rushing moves. He is and I mean, this isn't just like any like random guy. This is we've seen it last year with, Zach Allen being right next to him is if you don't get multiple hands on you're not gonna be able to get multiple hands on Simmons and John Franklin Myers. There's
yeah.
just not enough players.
We talk about adding bodies to that defensive line, and a lot of last
Mhm.
year was Simmons getting double teamed all the time, and the other guys weren't as effective. Now you got John Franklin Myers, you got Jermaine Johnson, you got Oladefe, or like that other
Femi
guy.
Odafe, yep.
Yeah, so you have a lot of again, the more bodies, the better, and yes, I do agree. I think he's inside, outside. Salah's gonna have a fun time scheming him
Mhm.
up in his defense. Speaking of defense, adding to the corner room, spending 105 million on 2 corners. Cordell Flotz, 3 years, 45 million, rock solid, a slot corner. Gonna fit in that role really well. I think he was a little underappreciated in New York, a pretty underrated player. A lot of money, 3 years, 45 million. But hey, that Tennessee corner room desperately needed help. He comes over to Dable from, I would, probably not say a familiar system, but a familiar coach, and gets a chance to be a prime slot, if not outside corner for a little bit, because I still think their corner room is very tight. And then the big corner signing, Alontae Taylor, 3 years, 60 million. This one I'm okay on simply for the fact because Tennessee desperately needed corner help.
Mhm.
He's your corner one. He's your outside corner. He's been very inconsistent, right? He's had some seasons where he is really good. He's a great blitzing corner, super physical, but he's also had some seasons where he's let up a lot of yards. It'll be interesting to see how Salah's
How
going to use him, but again,
exactly.
addressing that defense on all forms of the front, adding to that secondary, which was in dire need, I think is very, very important.
Mhm.
And I'm glad that they went out and spent the money that they did. The only really, I think, like I like the signing of Austin Slotman. I think that's another one. He's your starting center after you cut Lloyd Cushenberry. You brought in Mitch Trubisky as a quarterback kind of guru guy. Josh Williams from the Chiefs, I think, is an underrating signing who will become a depth corner. But by far the least favorite signing, I think, of my entire offseason. I don't even know why this happened, but I think this kind of puts it from not being an A-plus offseason. And you know who I'm talking about
Daniel
is
Bellinger.
3 years, 24 million on Daniel Bellinger to replace Chig Okonkwo. This one does not make any sense to me at all. I was super confused why the heck they did that in the first place. I never thought he was a tight end one. I
He
think that's a
wasn't even
lot
a
of
tight
money
end
to have a
one
tight end
with the
too, especially a
Giants.
blocking tight end who I don't think is better than Charlie Kolar in any aspect. So really the one signing I absolutely hated, but overall for Tennessee, listen, you needed to spend money. You weren't afraid. You went out and spent money. You got expensive contracts, but good value at premium positions that you desperately needed help in. And you're really bolstering the defense, giving Robert Saleh pieces to work with.
This is a team that desperately needed as much talent as possible. I mean, you'll get the probably the most complete and safest slot wide receiver probably in the league right now, Wandale Robinson. This is a guy that's had multiple years with 100 plus catches. You have, especially, I think last year, you can argue maybe with the Titans and the Jets, one of the weakest secondaries. And you go and you make sure you get two pretty serviceable people in Cordell Flott and Alante Taylor. And I mean, this defense goes from one that could barely get any pressure to the quarterback to really, really good with Jeffrey Simmons, Jeremiah Johnson, and Franklin Myers. There's still a lot of questions as well, and I don't necessarily know if all the questions were answered by this draft.
Mhm.
Offensive line is still some question marks there. I don't think Daniel Bellinger is going to be the most serviceable tight end
Yep,
throughout this
yep.
entire year. Linebacker core as well. Cedric Gray had a good year, but Cody Barton's not very talented. James Williams is that kind of little hybrid safety linebacker. They're still missing a lot of pieces, but they've definitely improved so much. And that's even without talking about the draft.
Yeah, I 100%. I think you go out, listen, scared money don't make money. You gotta spend
Exactly.
it, you gotta spend it if you wanna win, you gotta spend it if you wanna get better, if you wanna improve, especially in the Titans position, right?
Hmm.
I'm not the necessarily the biggest fan of teams just banking on free agency to win football games, but with the state that this team is in, and just like the Raiders, man, you need foundational pieces on your roster, guys who can be solid contributors, even if you have to spend a little bit of money to get them. And I
Hmm.
think that's what the Titans did really well. And the draft, I think the draft is really interesting too. I really like their first three picks, starting at number 4, Carnell Tate. Surprising,
Definitely
really
a
weren't,
surprise.
especially with Arvell Reese still on the board. I really thought, I was like, Arvell Reese or Sonny Styles, man.
Hmm.
I really thought one of these two pieces, but Carnell Tate to me in hindsight makes sense. I think I kind of like had that smoke show over it for a little bit. Tate's your rock solid guy. He, like I said, I was surprised they brought back Calvin Ridley. But again, the more the merrier. He's a guy, probably could teach up some of the younger guys as well. But Carnell Tate, compliment to Wandale Robinson. He's your deep threat. He's the guy.
Hmm.
Listen, Cam Ward, let's air the ball. Let's use that arm to the best of your ability. Let's use your playmaking to the best of your ability. He's athletic. He's got great hands. He's good in contested catches. He's consistent. And he's a great deep ball threat. I like this for Tennessee. It's high, in my opinion. It's a high pick at number 4. But again, I think the receiving market, especially in the first round, was
Hmm.
pretty competitive with some of those guys. I'm glad they didn't go with Jordan Tyson and, even with Sonny Styles, because, I sometimes smoke showed myself and thinking linebacker, but I think 4 as a linebacker is a little bit too high.
Yeah.
Uh, so I do like Carnell Tate. I like that pick.
Yeah. I
One
got
that was interesting.
I got 2 points about that. There's both question marks with Carnell Tate, and there's to be really joyous about. I think the biggest question mark with Carnell Tate is he's never been that wide receiver one throughout his
Yes.
career at Ohio State. So drafting a guy that's never been that number one option with that high volume at number 4 is a big risk, huge risk. But he has the size. He is not necessarily the fastest, but he has the contested catchability. He has the mentality, the blocking, everything that you want from a top 5 pick wide receiver. Second thing is this is the difference between the wide receiver groups from this projected starter 3 wide receivers compared to last year's. This year, Calvin Ridley, Carnell Tate, Wandale Robinson. May not necessarily have a wide receiver 1, but you have 3 guys that are very high end or at least serviceable, that all 3 have different aspects of their game that they are in the top at. Calvin Ridley is one of the best route runners. Wandale Robinson has one of the best hands. Carnell Tate can do a little bit of everything. Those are 3 arguable wide receiver 1s. Last year, you ready? They're running it with
Yeah.
Eric Iomanner, Chime Dike, and Xavier Restrepo.
Hey, you got a first team All Pro there, man. You got
Yeah,
a
I
first
do.
team All
I
Pro.
do.
Your
Those are
DK.
3 rookies, and none of them are. Eric Iomanner is the only one that had true reps at wide receiver as like an outside prototypical wide receiver in
Yep.
college. Xavier Restrepo never made it out of the slot. He also was never fantastic with Miami. He was able to kind of use that college system in the slot. Chime Dike, I'm a Florida fan. I watched so much Florida games, but he was never a player that made huge impacts in that receiving game. It was strictly in games.
Oh, they were 4th and 5th round picks, and they're going out playing wide receiver 1 and
Exactly.
wide receiver 2, and they're no Puka Nakuas. And yeah, I think it's a total night and day difference. And even and I think Carnell Tate has a better opportunity in this system because it's not in that receiver room where it's, "Hey, you're the only one guy that we have,"
Mhm.
right? If you don't bring in Wandale Robinson, even if you don't have Calvin Ridley, it's like you're still running with Elikai Manor and Shamir DK. Like, I think DK's a absolutely unbelievable special teamer, but
100%.
there's a difference between being an unbelievable special teamer and a wide receiver who can
Uh,
consistently catch the ball and get open. So,
there's a reasons
um,
why Devin Hester never came out as a full-time wide receiver.
yep.
Carnell,
I mean, Devin Hester, Josh Cribbs.
Carnell Patterson as well is another player that is so extreme in special teams, but is not able to do much other than maybe
He was a
playing a
good
little bit of
running
one,
back for a little
maybe
bit.
playing,
He was a
but
good
that's
running back.
after he changed positions 2 times.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So,
Yes, so I do like a Carnell Tate pick, although people might say it's a little high. One I'm really curious about trading back in the first round, drafting Keldrick Falk. This guy
yeah.
is like my antithesis of what I don't like in a defensive lineman, but I think it's
Mhm.
going to be good for Salah. He's freakishly athletic, perfect size, really good run stuffer, but has a lot of issues with rushing the quarterback. This was a guy the year before who was expected to be possibly a top 10, top 5 overall pick, but just didn't
Mhm.
have the sack capacity, wasn't able to get after the quarterback well, but the intangibles are there. The physicality is there. He kind of brings that run stopping capability within that defensive line, especially being able to set the edge. I don't know what this means for their second round pick last year, although he did have some plays. I know some Titans
They're
fans have
just very
commented that
yeah,
he
exactly,
has
and they're
not been like the guy.
yeah, and they're very
Um,
different players as well.
Very yes, very different.
Very different
But
players.
again, we talk about adding to that defensive line room, how important it is. It's just he's like the prototypical player that is really risky and in my opinion doesn't usually work out in the league
Mhm.
very well because he just doesn't have that pass rushing upside. But again, what better place to do that than with one of the best defensive minds and a really good defensive line group that he's able to learn around, adding pass rushers, adding consistency, right? If Jermaine Johnson doesn't work out, you have Keldrick Fault kind of to look forward to in the future. I like the pick being able to trade back in the first round for him. Another one I really liked, we talked about addressing the linebacking core, kind of like CJ Allen. I think it fits. Drafting Anthony Hill Jr. in the
Yeah,
second round,
very versatile,
he's
very
your
aggressive.
prototypical linebacker.
Mhm.
Yeah, like you said, very versatile, very aggressive. He's a perfect complement to Cedric Gray, a guy you can kind of move all around the place, also set in the middle. So I am interested to see what they do with him. But again, addressing the linebacking core with a high upside second round pick. Again, I like it. I think they address needs. They got a little bit of a premium pick with Keldrick Falk. I guess some later guys in the draft because they didn't have another pick till the fifth round. I mean, Nick Singleton was a
There's
guy.
potential there.
It'll be interesting to see how he will fit in their running back room alongside Pollard and Tajay Spears, but I think that's a high upside running back pick. And then my boy Pat Coogan, I think that's a really good depth, a center pick, high IQ center in the sixth round. And then another one that's interesting. I didn't know if you knew this, but their seventh round pick, Jared Kanak, was actually a tight end. He was a linebacker, I
Really?
think, for a while, and then swapped to tight end. So
Hmm.
he's kind of a gadget upside player. Interesting. But overall, I mean, I think this was one of the best off seasons, honestly, I've seen in a very long time. You talk about a division this competitive, a team that has a possible franchise quarterback in the reins, right?
Yep.
It's not only the offseason, it's all three parts of it I like. I love their coaching hires. You bringing in leaders. You go into the offseason, you maximize your capabilities. You spend the money at premium positions and positions of need, not only to help Robert Saleh, but to help out Kim Ward. And it's the same thing in the draft. Get players of need. Don't overthink it. Get good players that are players of need. And that's exactly what they did. And I have to say, I really liked it.
No, they had an extremely good season. I think if you this team, I think, is still a little bit away from truly making a contending move in the AFC South. I think that it kind of just goes to show with the kind of the upside of this like Jaguars, Texans team, maybe even the Colts team. But I think if you pick up this if you pick up this Titans team and you throw
Mhm.
them to NFC South, there's a high chance that they come out on top of the NFC South. And this is a team that had the first round pick last year or 2 years or 2 drafts ago, and it had the number four pick this past year. They can truly only go up from where they're at now. I think they made some really key moves to be able to make that jump, especially helping out Cam Ward, giving him true weapons, getting a true secondary. and then they made really good moves in this draft as well. So
Yep.
I think this was definitely because that Daniel Bellinger signing. That's the only thing that's stopping this from being an A plus
Yeah.
prototypical blueprint offseason.
Yeah, I do agree with that. That's a little stain on
Mm-hmm.
the white t-shirts. But I guess as we always kind of send it off, the four questions, the four pillars of truth
Yep.
for the AFC South. Josh, why don't you go ahead and list off yours? Because I think I started last time.
Yeah, no problem. So this is the most improved team, the team that we were most disappointed with, their offseason moves, things like that. Team is going to be first in their division. And what was the last one?
Team's gonna be last.
So, yep. So first, last, most improved, most disappointed. Most improved, I think it's fair to say it's the Titans, 100%. Just
Mhm.
because they had so much money to be able to spend, I think they for sure is the most improved. I think most disappointing is the Jaguars. I think you can argue that the Colts, but they also went out and made sure that they were able to keep their guys, Alec Pierce, Daniel Jones. Jaguars were very limited on money and as well as draft capital, and that with no first round pick. And even with all that, they still made very questionable moves. Jaguars to me is the most disappointing. Last in this division, I do think this is the Colts. I think that might be a little sneaky. I do think there's too many question marks with the health of Daniel Jones, and if they're able to even reciprocate that little sample size that they had last year. First in division, I do think it's going to be the Texans. As much as I have concerns about CJ Stroud, this is one of the best defenses we've ever seen in the NFL. Like just straight up, there's so many playmakers at every spot and every level, and they went out and made sure they were able to get their guys in Reed Blankenship, Caden McDonald, Kamari Ramsey. These are players that are going to be able to come in and immediately make impacts. Yeah, as much as I hate to say as a Jaguars fan, I think the Texans are going to end up being top of the AFC South.
Interesting thought. Yeah, that's a bitter. That's I respect that. That's a lot of
Hmm.
respect right there. That's a lot of respect. I
Maturity.
cap to you, good sir. And yeah, that is maturity. And we're getting there, man. We're too old for this. Yeah, I would probably echo you on most, if not all of. Start with
Mhm.
the least improved, most improved. I think most improved by far is Tennessee. You talk about where they were to where they are now. It's a no brainer to me. Address like I talked about it for the past 20 minutes.
Yeah,
Least improved is the Jags.
we also talked about that for
We talked about
20
that for 20
minutes.
minutes, so I won't, hit it too hard, but like you said, I just you losing guys, not replacing them, a lot of expectations and I just wasn't a fan.
Mhm.
Dead last, yeah, I think it's the Colts. As much as I hate
Man,
what the Jags did in the offseason, I also don't like what the Colts did, and I don't think their roster is nearly as good as the Jags. I think this team is going to have a rude awakening call. It's going to be even tougher with the Sauce Gardner trade in hand. The first place is really tough. I think it's
mhm,
going to be kind of like last year where it's going to be a really close race. I think the main thing, obviously, the main thing in my opinion is Trevor Lawrence versus CJ Stroud. And more
definitely.
importantly, how CJ Stroud can he play? Right?
Mhm.
Can he play? Because now it's like on him. And I do think it is the Texans by a very close margin. I think it's really gonna be close. I think that Trevor Lawrence is definitely a lot better of a quarterback, but I just think I look at the rest of the rosters, and like you said, I think that Houston defense is unbelievable. I mean, they were winning games with Davis Mills, which says a
Yeah,
lot. If they were able to carry that disappointing of a quarterback group into the divisional round, imagine if CJ Stroud just plays a little bit better than what he's been playing in the first place. I think they could go really far. And especially with addressing the offensive line, with addressing the defensive line and some of the secondary problems. I think this division is going to be really competitive. I think it's very close. It's like a better NFC South in my opinion.
yeah,
They're not as bad as none of the teams are as bad as what I really think the NFC South is
mhm.
at the moment,
Hence why
but
I
I
said
think
you could pick up the Titans and throw them to NFC South, and they could arguably be the top team.
yes, I think it's going to be a really close division. It's gonna be a lot of fun from a Jags fan. I would say
Mhm.
or not from like to a Jags fan, but
Yeah,
those are my thoughts. And yeah,
and
that's what I got.
and here's the big thing about such a competitive division is you can argumentally make a argument with all four teams that they could win the division. And you could all do the same thing with all four being the bottom of the division. It all comes down to quarterback play in almost all four teams. CJ Stroud's able to play what he has shown his rookie year and plus that progression, that team could be almost impossible to beat. If Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars would take the back end of last season and be able to start the season off that hot, no team's touching them. If Cam
Yeah.
Ward's able to be as good as he's shown, I mean, there were so many times last year where he was the sole reason why they're even in certain games. So if he's able to play up to that first overall pick with that talent around him, they could soar. Same thing in the Colts. If they're able to jump right back into that stretch that they had last year, they could take that off, and with added some youth in their rookies, they could as well be the top team. You can make an argument for all four, but you can also make an argument for all four being the worst team.
Yes. I do agree with that too. Yeah, I think it's a wild card, man. It's a wild card
I think you want to
division,
see,
and those are the best divisions.
yeah, you're going to see a lot of upsets, I think, especially in these division games. And there's a good chance the last few games of these division ones are going to come down to getting in the playoffs or kicking people out.
But
But yeah.
Josh, that concludes another episode of the Goal Line Guys. I don't even know what episode we're at, and another segment.
Season 2, episode 16.
It's nuts.
I don't even know how many we had like 20 something in the first season. I think we're up to like already over 20 in season 2. In the season.
Well, we're consistently being great every single week.
Exactly.
And every single week, there's more and more football to talk about. And what better way to do it than with my best buddy on the Goal Line Guys?
Plenty of stuff to potentially happen. You never know. We might have more suspensions. We have so much news still come out. Who knows what's going to happen with James Pierce Jr. So there's still free agents, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs that could be signed, Trayvon Diggs, Commanders even. There's so many things that will come to you live with, or maybe a few days late. But we'll talk about it.
We always do, man. We always do. But Josh, once again, it's always good to have you on here, buddy. I guess to everyone out there, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to keep tuning in with us. We're always around. Ask any questions you may want. We have EBK. We have EBK, Elite Ball Knowledge. So I'll try to.
We will have clips out every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday with a live stream every Thursday night around this 8 to 9 o'clock time. So Eastern Standard. But with that, thank you everybody for tuning in. Make sure to follow all the socials, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Instagram. I think that's it. But yeah, James, you have a great night.
You too, Josh. You take it easy.
All right, James.